Hi there, today we're talking about the Poly Studio X. We have the Studio X50, this one right here for medium-sized rooms. And we have the Studio X30, this little one here for small rooms. So if we take a look, the device has pretty much everything built into it. So it's got stereo speakers built into this X50 model. It has several microphones built into it. It has a built-in 4K camera that's automatic tracking. So we'll take a look at that in a bit. And also built into it is wireless content sharing and whiteboard functionality built right into it, and the processor is built into it. So the key here is this is a standalone unit. It does not require a PC at all. And there's different modes that it can be in. So right now, this particular one is in what we call the poly mode, or it's like a multi-vendor mode, where you can one-click join into pretty much all the popular video applications like Zoom, Teams, using our RealConnect gateway service, WebEx, BlueJeans, and several others. So you see, I can use a touch screen to control it. Most people don't have a touch screen in the room, so they're using the TC8. This is our touch control. So from this one unit, you can one-click join into pretty much any of these platforms. So this is what we call the poly mode, multi-vendor, using our Cloud One Touch dial. And if you're using Teams, then you're also using our RealConnect subscription to get into the Teams meeting. But the same device, the Studio X, it is an Android device, so it can actually boot into a native mode, such as a native Teams app, native Zoom app, and a bunch of others. So when it's in that native mode, it looks like this. So I have this one over here, the Studio X30. I have this one booted into the native Teams mode. So when it's in this mode, completely native, running Microsoft software. So the interface is super slick, one-click join into Teams meeting. So, very native experience. When it's in this mode, it's running Microsoft software. Also is the native Zoom mode. You'll see that this one has a native Zoom interface. So this is using a Zoom Room license from Zoom. When it's in this mode, it's booted right into Zoom. So it's running Zoom software. So it's a completely native Zoom experience in this case. And I can screen if you have one, or that same TC8 touch control, when you're booted into the native Zoom Room mode, then it gives you the Zoom controller runs native right on here. So I can start and stop recording from the Zoom meeting with this device. I can hang up, control anything about the meeting. So yeah, you have those different modes you can be in, the poly mode or a native mode. And here's how you control that. And you see, this is the web interface of the Poly Studio X50. So from here, I can go to settings and provider mode. That's what we call it. So right now, this one is in the poly mode. If I want to switch it to Zoom Room mode, I can just click save and it'll reboot in 3 minutes. It'll be in the Zoom Room mode. Teams mode, GoToMeeting, and a bunch of others, as well as what we call device mode. So device mode is a USB pass-through mode. So this is always a great capability to have in your back pocket, to be able to just, switch to that mode and just basically use the device as if it's a webcam audio device, connecting it USB to your computer, and then selecting in your computer app of choice, just selecting the Studio X as your mics, as your speaker, as your camera. So you have this capability to change the mode. As an admin can do that from this web interface, but you also can do it from our centralized management tool, which we call Lens. So this is the Lens tool. It's a cloud-based tool and allows you to remotely change configurations, do software updates. So I can see this particular device is the one I have set for Teams mode. If I wanted to switch modes on it, I can just simply come here and change the mode. So I'll change this one to the USB pass-through mode. I'll hit apply, and it's going to switch that to the USB pass-through mode. I want to show you some powerful features that are built into the Poly Studio X. So we have built into it noise blocking capabilities. We also have built into it automatic camera tracking. So with the camera tracking, I can move around the space and the camera will automatically find me, center me, zoom me in. So anywhere I do move in the space, you'll see that it'll adjust. It's actually listening. It's listening to figure out where the actual conversation is in the room, not just trying to frame every face that's in the room. It'll track the conversation. Another capability that's built in, which is super important and very useful in the real world, is noise blocking capabilities. So the device is listening and knows what human speech sounds like and will pass that through, but it also knows what the common noise distractors are, and it'll just strip that out. So if you forget to mute and you start typing a novel in the background, let's see what happens. So you can't hear that noise at all. And even louder stuff like rustling papers or maybe opening a bag of chips. So it can strip that right out of the audio stream. Another noise blocking capability that's built right into the Poly Studio X is called Acoustic Fence. So Acoustic Fence is basically a sound curtain where you decide a certain area in your conference space where you want to keep the audio, and any noise that's beyond that won't be sent to the far end at all. They won't hear a thing. So maybe you have a kitchenette right next to your conference room and you want to strip out any noise that's outside of your conference room. So Acoustic Fence will do that. And you can decide how narrow or how wide you want this sound curtain to be within your space. So I have that Acoustic Fence feature turned on, and I have it set pretty narrow. So as I walk to my right here, eventually you won't hear me as I start walking and talking. So 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. So once I get past that point where I have the Acoustic Fence, you can't hear anything outside of that range. You know, at some point, someone's going to want to share some content, whether they're in a meeting with remote participants, or it might be just a local meeting and they want to just share content to the screen. So there's many different ways to do that. So, you know, one is just a traditional HDMI cable. So you can just plug in HDMI content input directly into the Studio X and share your screen from your computer that way. But also built into it is a wireless content sharing capability. So typically in the past, you used to have a separate wireless content device, a box, you know, some kind of appliance for that. Well, we just built that right into the X50. So what that means is you can do wireless content sharing using casting, screen sharing built into your device. So whether that's AirPlay with an Apple device or Miracast with a PC or Android, you can just share using the tools that are just built into your device. So nothing to install, you just use the built-in screen sharing. So in this case, I have an iPhone. So I just use the built-in screen sharing on the iPhone, and I see the Studio X show up there. And so now anything I'm doing on my phone is now mirrored to the screen. So I can use this content sharing whether I'm in a meeting or not. I can just do this for local share as well. So this is AirPlay with Apple, but I would do with, if I had an Android device, it would use Miracast to do the same. And also built into the device is a built-in whiteboard and annotation capability that's built right into it. So if you are lucky enough to have a touch screen in the room, then there's a full infinite whiteboard built into it. So I can annotate on top of any existing content that somebody is sharing to the screen from any means. And I can also control anything about that content with the TC8. So if I have multiple pieces of content, I can control that from here. But even if you're not sharing content, there's actually a whiteboard function that's built right into it. So I can bring up a brand new Blackboard or whiteboard session, and I can start drawing pictures, beautiful art like this, and it's an infinite whiteboard, meaning I can just keep zooming on this infinitely and just keep going and going and going, right? So you have this infinite whiteboard capability that's built right into it. And if you really love the beautiful art that you've come up with and you want to share that with the group, you can snapshot. So you can just take a snapshot of that and it'll go down into the tray. And now that I have a few different sources of content, I have a Blackboard session and I have my phone, I can now, control which one is going to the screen just using my TCA. Now, keep in mind, there's these different modes on the Studio X, right? So I was showing you the poly mode, but if you're in a native mode, then it's going to use the native tools that come with that tool. So in this case, I have this one booted into the native Zoom room. So if I do have a touch screen, I do have a whiteboard, but it's using Zoom's whiteboard. It's not using the one I just showed you with poly mode. So, similar capability, but it's using Zoom as the tool here. And similar goes for the other modes that you might be in, like the native Teams mode. There's a whiteboard for that. So that capability is going to depend on what application that you're booted into.